My name is Jeff Cleaver. I serve on the board of directors for the West Des Moines Historical Society, a position I've held for about 6 months now. For those who are not aware, it is a very exciting time for the West Des Moines Historical Society, as we are part of the Legacy Woods Project, where we're hoping to enhance what we do as a historical society and offer people in terms of what they can learn about West Des Moines history, the Jordan House and far beyond into our history in West Des Moines. Today, we are learning a little bit more about that West Des Moines history as Gale Brubaker, who is our executive director, is going to do her session exploring our past, which will focus on the immigrant and refugee history of West Des Moines, and I'll let her speak more about that. But before we bring up Gale, I just want to thank our friends at the library for hosting this event. This is a wonderful space. If you have been to the Jordan House, it is a beautiful house. It is not set up for things like this. So this is great that we are able to partner with them on events like this, and hope that we see you all out at the next Iowa Files session in March. But with that, I'll turn it over to Gale for our session. Gale.
Thank you, Jeff. Oh no, oh stop. Your check's in the mail. First, I want to apologize to anybody who's here expecting to learn more about the Underground Railroad in Iowa. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, both the historical societies and our scheduled presenter, we have had to postpone, not cancel, postpone that event. We will announce a new date for the event on our website and our social media and in an e-newsletter. So if you're not signed up to be on our news list, there's a sign-up sheet in the back. In the meantime, we invite you to visit the historic Jordan House Museum. Public tours are offered every Friday and Sunday, 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. This tour provides a unique opportunity to walk in the footsteps of history and gain a deeper understanding of the Underground Railroad. The Jordan House is not only a testament to the bravery of freedom seekers, but also to the unwavering commitment of the families like the Jordans who dedicated themselves to the fight for this fundamental human right. Another fundamental right is your right to vote. So in the back, we do have a nonpartisan group making sure that everybody is registered to vote. Did you know that last week, 183,000 Iowans were removed from voter rolls? Check your voter registration. Was that correct? It was Iowans? Yeah. Check your voter registration. Make sure that you are eligible to vote in all the upcoming elections. So, oh, come on. Why does this always work when no one is here? All right, so I think this was a pretty apropos quote, given what we are discussing and what the mission of the West Des Moines Historical Society is, which is we are a volunteer-based organization, so volunteers like Jeff, like Allison, our other board members who are here, really are passionate about community enrichment and understanding where we've come from and where we're going in the future. So an important part of where we were, where we came from, is our history of refugees and immigrants to what is now Iowa. It's hard to believe, but Indigenous people, many of them were the first refugees. There have been Indigenous peoples living here for 10,000 plus years, but many of these tribes originated further east. But as the white folks came in, they were pushed west, and this is a map from the 1700s where there were already these tribes, which don't have a great representation right now in Iowa. So you can see how this progress has affected these people, and they have become the first refugees. A lot of the territory in Iowa and to the west was divided up by the U.S. government, and different tribes were assigned different areas to live in. So this is all due to that concept of manifest destiny. So the it is the idea that the white Americans were chosen. It was our destiny to move west and establish the entire continent for our civilization. So, immigration. There are 3 major waves of immigration to Iowa because of push-pull factors. So push factors are negative reasons that force people to leave. It pushes them out of their home country, while the pull factors are the things that are positive that pull people to your community. The push factors include poverty, conflict, discrimination, natural disasters, lack of access to health care, social mobility, things like that. Pull factors include freedom. The ability to get a job, to live your life. So that is a big pull factor that brought a lot of refugees and immigrants to our state. So the first wave was really those early Europeans that came here. The French explorers were here first. They were looking for beaver, lead, all of these natural resources, and that brought them to Iowa. So the really big first wave came in the 1830s when a lot of those settlers came from Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. My family came from Kentucky, which you can tell through my accent. So agriculture was really the big pull to immigration. And of course, one of those early immigrant families were the Jordans. It's more than just a mall. So James and Melinda Jordan came here in 1846, and they were the first permanent Anglo settlers to this area, which is why they get the mall named after them. James Jordan had a tremendous impact on the history of West Des Moines, probably most well known as a conductor for the Underground Railroad. These are the Harpers. These are 2 individuals who were part of this last trip that John Brown brought through in 1859. There is a long history of these refugees escaping to freedom that chose to stay in our community. Henry Bell, the other gentleman pictured here, was one of those people who came here as part of the Underground Railroad and stayed and thrived in Des Moines. So his impact was also very powerful because he helped bring the railroads to this community. Railroads are a big driver of immigration because of the workforce that's needed. So we can really see that in the history of Valley Junction. So a lot of the first immigrants that came here were Mexicans who worked in the beet fields, sugar beet fields, which I didn't know Iowa had a long history of sugar beets. In fact, in the 1920s, beet profits were higher than any other crop. We were king sugar beet, not king corn. They can only be grown in the northern part of the state, so Mason City had a huge processing plant up there. So that is why a lot of Mexican-American families are still there. A lot of them came to be part of the railroad. In Valley Junction, they came because they were really recruited by the railroads to come and work because some of the white workers went on strike in the 20s, and a lot of those immigrants who were from European countries went back to fight during World War I. So there was a lot of opportunity and a lot of need for other people to come in and work. And also the Mexican Revolution was just reigning terror. So that was a push factor that brought a lot of these families to West Des Moines. So, and a lot of these pictures are from West Des Moines families, which I think is just fantastic. Some of them came directly to West Des Moines, primarily the men, especially the single men. And then as they had more opportunity and everything firmed up, that is when they started bringing the families, the women and the children. A lot of them lived in boxcars in what is called Hyde Park, which I'll show you a map of a little later. So by the turn of the century, there are over 400 railroad families in West Des Moines, in Valley Junction at the time. Another pull factor was the Great Migration, the moving of African Americans up north to find jobs. So a lot of them, again, started finding careers and opportunities along the rivers. So there were jobs working in manufacturing and heavy moving crops up and down the river and things like that. So that is really where they started and then moved into the interior, especially when they were recruited to come. And Valley Junction, the superintendent, R.C. Hyde, really pushed to have these immigrants come to our community. So they lived in what was called Hyde Park. So you can see on the map, it was south of the railroad yards, and a lot of buildings were put in the Penn-Dixie parking lot. One of those people who came here was a gentleman named Gilbert Roca. He came here when he was 9 years old. So we have an interview in our files that Gilbert gave in the early 80s talking about what life was like when he was here. It was a very tightly knit community. Everybody was in this kind of the same book, the same situation. So there were a lot of African Americans, Mexican Americans, Serbians, Italians, Croatians living in this neighborhood. And there was a concentrated effort to give them housing and parks, a quality of life. Another family that, if you don't know about, you darn well should, are the Long family. African-American family that came here in very early 20s, are still here, and their descendant, Vicki Long Hill, is doing amazing things with Taste of the Junction to preserve and celebrate the memories of those who lived here. So that's at the Eddie Davis Community Center at 1312 Maple Street, a portion of which was named in honor of her parents, John and Barbara Long, as the honorary roadway. So there is a museum there that is well worth your time. The second wave of immigration, this was really a push. Political revolutions, repressive reactions, all of that really swept through Europe, and that really pushed a lot of settlers and people to try to escape and come to the United States. Also potato famines, that was a very big deal. People were starving. Railroads were really pushing immigration. They wanted people to come to the Midwest. And in fact, there is an article in October 22nd, 1905, Register and Leader, talking about immigrants and their value to the West. I'm not sure if you can see it on this one, but part of the value that this author of this article said was that these new immigrants would come here and show the blacks how to work. So that was the value of them. Also, pay attention to this language that's in there. There's plenty of land, but no one to work it. And then this description of the immigrants who are available. Chattering Italians, fair-haired Teutons, Germans. Curly-haired giants from Denmark. So, pretty positive language, isn't it? These are people who you want in your community because they're here, they're going to work, they're going to show those other people what good hard work really is. So awesome. So the state of Iowa created a board of immigration in 1870. So they picked out these areas, these regions where they wanted to attract more settlers. So obviously Germany, Holland, Scandinavia, bunch of blonde countries. They wanted them to come to Iowa. And to that extent, they issued a handbook. So printing thousands of copies in different languages, and they sent people overseas to distribute these handbooks and try to get these classes, these hard workers, to come to Iowa. Unfortunately, Iowa was on the very tail end of doing these sort of things. Other states were a lot ahead of us, so it was not as successful as they would have hoped. The other problem is the Scandinavian language printing of this Iowa immigration book burned up. All of them burned up in the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. So there weren't a whole lot of copies left. And dang, they really wanted those fair-haired Scandinavians here to do the work. Also, after the first printing, a real wave of anti-immigrant sentiment swept the country and Iowa. So the state refused to allocate funds for a second printing. So then it was up to railroads to really advertise Iowa's charms and the reasons for coming here. So think about the global situation right before World War I. There were a lot of people moving around the world. So Iowa was especially attractive because a lot of them were agricultural workers. A lot of them had experience working in coal mines. So this is a map showing central Iowa coal mines. There were a lot of them. We're probably on top of a coal mine. So there were just a whole lot of opportunities. So here's where it gets kind of personal. Who among you, if you feel comfortable, is of Irish descent? Like honest to gosh Irish descent, not like me on St. Patrick's Day. It's like, woo, green beer. Okay, here's some reactions to the Irish immigrating to the United States. The Cedar Rapids Times published a commentary about these orange riots. They happened in New York, in Montreal, and it was rival groups of Irish, Catholics and Protestants fighting. I love the fact that this person is downgrading the Irish, but they still had a misspelling in their quote about accepting American interpretation of religious and civil liberty. So remember back when I said the description of the other people who were coming here, they were chattering and fair-haired and giants. What did they say about the Irish? This is a Harper's Weekly cover drawn by Thomas Nast, who was a very famous cartoonist. That is Lady Liberty, who has been attacked by an Irish miscreant, and she is strangling him, and he's dropped his knife. The second illustration is by an unknown artist, but it perpetuates the narrative that was going around at the time that the Irish were a different race than other people. So this is 1899. So you can see there's Anglos, Negro, and Irish. So it wasn't just the Irish. Do we have anybody here of German descent? Okay, well, you know, really that anti-German rhetoric really started heating up during World War I. Yeah, it was. And in fact, Iowa grabbed the spotlight because our then governor, William Harding, issued what became known as the Babel Proclamation. This proclamation said you could not speak any language but English in public. That included churches, church services, phone conversations. But the problem is there are a lot of people who don't speak English, but they're not speaking German. The Dutch speakers in Pella were quite horrified by this, but they found themselves caught up in this law. So they really had to find somebody who could come and do church services and things like that in English. So the Danes, the Dutch, the Norwegians all protested when they could no longer hold church services in their own language. There was just a general derision of this proclamation, and it was dropped fairly soon. But that gives you an idea of the enmity against Germans and German Americans. In fact, former President Teddy Roosevelt had a really despised people that he called hyphenated Americans. So you can see these folks are split in half. You've got an American and a German and a British person. I think a lot of us now take pride in our heritage, and we are German American, Irish American. Teddy Roosevelt thought that this was a really horrible thing. He said, such people have no place here, and the sooner they leave, the better. Uncle Sam is turning his back on hyphenated Americans. And in fact, the rhetoric got so kind of political and strong during World War II against Germans, they had to change the names because sauerkraut, that's a German word, and we're not going to eat that, so we've got Liberty cabbage. Hamburgers are Liberty sandwiches, and Dachshunds, Liberty pups. So that just totally changed. It seemed a little ridiculous. Well, this is a menu from the Congressional Congress in 2003. This is when France opposed the U.S. invading Iraq. And there was this widespread condemnation of France. So they changed the name from French fries to freedom fries. The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? So, this third wave that came and is continuing today was really encouraged by the late, I say great, Governor Robert Ray. He reacted to an international need with Thai Dam and other refugees after the Vietnam War. You know, these are the people that helped us during the war. They fought on our side, and they were going to be slaughtered after the Vietnamese War. So he created the Bureau of Refugee Services in 1975, and the first 300 Thai Dam refugees arrived that year. Does anybody remember them coming or what that was like? Communities were pretty welcoming, I have heard. Does that kind of fit your memory? Yeah. Governor Ray really put out a call to social organizations and churches. We've got to welcome these neighbors. They are coming here with basically the clothes on their back and nothing else. Where are they going to live? How are they going to learn English? And communities got together, and it sounds like it was frankly amazing. They found apartments and houses and put food in there for them and took them around for English lessons, for doctor's appointments, things like that. It sounds like it was an absolutely welcoming time in Iowa's history. Since then, refugees have continued to arrive. We're still an official resettlement zone for refugees. So we've got Cambodians, people that came from Hungary, the Sudan, Burma, and many other countries, and most lately, Afghanistan and the Ukraine because of what is happening there. They are on pause right now, but these, I think everyone should know what the situation is when a refugee comes to the United States and comes to Iowa. They are not guaranteed a job. They are not given $10,000 at the airport, as I had somebody tell me once. President Obama, then President Obama, did not meet every refugee and give them $10,000 in cash. They come here, many times not knowing the language, often have spent a decade or more in a refugee camp, and they've got to find a job, learn to speak enough English, learn the bus schedules, all of that in 30 days, because they have to start paying back the expense for their flights. So, our community has been very welcoming, but there are some really major issues with them coming here as far as support. So when they come here, what sort of impact do they have? Well, in West Des Moines schools alone, more than 70 languages are spoken. As of 2021, 8.11 of West Des Moines, Iowa residents were born outside of the United States. That's a lot of people. The top 3 countries that are represented, Mexico, which makes sense because of the workers who are here. India, a lot of that is through STEM, physicians, things like that, in Vietnam. And that is one of those push groups. The impact, economic impact in central Iowa is quite significant. So the latest figures I could find, that they are 7.9% of the Des Moines area population and have a $1 billion in spending power. That means they have disposable income to spend back in the community. A lot of these immigrants and refugees are entrepreneurs. They are the original pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of people. So our population is growing. Foreign-born residents contributed $3.2 billion to the metro's economy. That's in taxes, that's in spending. It's a pretty significant impact. And beyond all the financial impact, there's a cultural impact that they are making as well. So my husband grew up in Des Moines, and when he grew up, Taco John's was pretty darn exotic. And there were no Korean restaurants, no Asian restaurants, so I'm glad that we have these folks coming in. A significant portion of Iowa's residents are foreign-born. About 2.9 of our U.S.-born residents live with one immigrant parent. So a lot of times these children and grandchildren are doing their own work, and also they are being the family's translators. They are trying to be a bridge between the older folks who can't learn our language very easily. I don't know if anybody's tried to learn a new language when they're 50. It's hard. So thank goodness there are these kids who have better, more nimble minds so they can be translators. Many of them are naturalized citizens. They are here, they have work visas. They are a significant portion of agriculture, healthcare, food service, and manufacturing sectors. If you look at the population of workers in care facilities, a significant portion of them are foreign-born or first-generation immigrants or refugees. So, significant spending power, significant impact, and I just think it's something that we should all know a little bit more about. And I think I whipped through that pretty fast, didn't I? Which is okay, because Jeff wants to get home. Does anybody have any questions about anything or any comments? Yeah.
Gale, I was just, I'm Allison, I'm a member of the board, but will you speak to some of when we had the naturalization ceremonies at the Jordan House and what it took to get to that point for them?
It is years and years and years of paperwork, of proving your financial stability, and taking a citizenship test. Has anybody tried one of the citizenship tests that are online? Did you pass? Thumbs up, okay. Oh, okay. Fellow nerds unite. But I don't know that I could pass. So if you want to give yourself kind of a test, go look up one of those citizenship tests. And they have to do that. They have to make sure that they are ticket-free, crime-free, which of course makes sense. But at one of the last naturalization events we had, unfortunate woman got a speeding ticket. She was 15 miles over the limit in Dubuque, and they discovered it the morning that she was going to become a naturalized citizen. So I spent more time on the phone trying to get this ticket paid off so she could become a citizen. Unfortunately, they don't do them at the Jordan House anymore because we just don't have the space in the front yard. But I hope someday they come back. This is an amazing opportunity where a judge comes in and they swear to uphold the Constitution and all the laws of the United States and follow no king or potentate from their home country. A lot of them wear their traditional outfits, which are beautiful. We got nothing on that. Men's tuxes are so boring when you compare them to other societies' fancy wear. But it is this incredibly moving family opportunity to come together and share, and they are so incredibly proud of becoming Americans that they have fought for years, and sometimes it's decades. A lot of countries have a quota system, so it is not as simple as, hi, I'm in the Sudan. I'm going to be killed because I'm a Christian. I think I'll go to the United States. It is a very long, difficult road, and restrictions keep the numbers of people down. Sort of like after World War I, there were restrictions on different European settlers who could come here. So that is why Mexicans were brought to work on the railroads. So these things have a very long-lasting impact. So, anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how many greats. Grandfather came here in 1848 from somewhere out east. We didn't have land given away as part of the Homestead Act, did we? I mean, how did people get land here who came in from the eastern United States?
We did, and that's part of the reason why the Jordans came here. Jeff probably knows some facts better than I do of how much it was per acre, but the Homestead Act was a big grower of emigrants. So immigrants are people coming from outside the country. Emigrants, are people who are already here and then moving to a new place. So that really supported a lot of emigration. And the Homestead Act was kind of unusual because it allowed freed enslaved people and women to also own property. So that was pretty darn radical. So it was a large driver. And then as railroads started to expand, having a railroad in your town meant the survival of your town. How many little towns died because of politics or geography? The railroad was 10 miles away instead of right through your community. So they needed people to come work on the railroads, and people wanted to farm those areas near the railroads because they knew they'd have greater access to send their crops and their animals to market. That's why James Jordan brought railroads to this area, because before that he was having to load his cattle onto barges and barge them down to St. Louis. This way, when you have a railroad spur in your backyard, it's a heck of a lot easier, isn't it? So that is really why a lot of railroad spurs and a lot of railroads and land became so valuable. Oh, yes.
Well, just on the Homestead Act, do you have any idea what time span Iowa land in Iowa was available to people because of the Homestead Act?
I could Google it.
When she mentioned that, I don't know how long that went on. I'm familiar with it, but I don't know how long it went on.
Jeff, you're a historian. Do you have anything to add?
I'm pretty sure the Homestead Act is passed during the Civil War, I think. And I think it is passed during the Civil War because there's no Southern legislatures in the Congress at that point in time. So Southern states did not want to pass a Homestead Act because that opens up land for free labor, and they are not interested in free labor, they are interested in slave labor. So without those Southern legislators in Congress, they were able to pass the Homestead Act, open up all that free territory for free labor to go and have land and access it there. I don't know how long they continue to homestead. I don't know if that goes into the 1890s, I'm not sure how far forward it goes, but there's a lot of legislation passed during the Civil War that had been bottlenecked up. The Transcontinental Railroad is another example. That without the Southern legislators in Congress, they were able to get all that stuff passed and opened up.
Sorry, I'm Googling what the, so it looks like it was 40 acres, homesteads. The maximum acreage you could have in an urban community was a half acre, and you could have 40 acres. So I would say you can.
The act was repealed in 1976
Yeah.
by the Federal Lands Policy and Management Act. But homesteading was allowed in Alaska until 1896. Now that is Google's AI answer, so take that for what it's worth. That's probably.
What? AI is perfect. So yeah, it had significant impact on Iowa.
Service will confirm that, 1976.
Yeah, but the railroads were really a huge driver nationally of immigration because they needed the work, and it was dangerous work. If you come to the Jordan House, we have a book of death certificates from the 1880s, and Dr. George Hannawalt, who was James Jordan's son-in-law. One of the deaths that we have pulled out and chosen to spotlight is a railroad worker at Valley Junction who was taking a nap during his lunch hour, and a boxcar jumped the rail and hit him. Thank goodness for morphine, because it took them about 27 hours to die, according to. So there's no OSHA, there's no protection for workers. So there's absolutely no reason for businesses to try to keep workers alive, because you got a whole bunch of them just coming down the pipeline. So that's another reason why recruiting was so strong. All right, if no other questions, I'm going to let you go and watch some football or the Puppy Bowl. David is going to be giving our program next month. He's going to be talking about the impact that Iowa's had on NASA and the space race. So he is very smart about that. So it's going to be really great. Yes, Jeff?
Can you just put a brief plug in for Adopt a Log?
Oh, sure. So if you want to be part of West Des Moines history, the West Des Moines Historical Society is working with the City of West Des Moines, who are awesome, by the way. And I'm not just saying that because Allison is our city liaison onto the board. We're putting together a historic log cabin. And we need your help raising the walls of this log cabin. So you can adopt a log. We have about 30 names you can choose from. No, you don't get exclusive rights to Loggy McLogface. I'm so sorry, but you can also choose your own log, your own name, and you're going to be part of helping us bring history to this campus of Legacy Woods. So we are a friend and partner with the City of West Des Moines. We are not an agency or part of the City of West Des Moines. All thoughts and views that are expressed today are primarily mine. So don't come after the Historical Society or the city. And we appreciate all of your support. Our members and donors are the ones who help us do things like welcome over 4,300 visitors to the Jordan House last year, to programs and services. One of those services that we offer are, I'm more than happy to come to your community group, your church group, your PEO. If you feed me lunch or breakfast, it's even better. I would love and come and talk to you about the Underground Railroad and the Jordans and the history of West Des Moines. So this is how you get hold of me. Please give me a yell if you have any questions or would like to book an opportunity for me to come and speak to your organization. It's absolutely awesome. And
Do you ever speak in schools?
I do. We really like to get, and I'm more than happy to. A lot of times we really try to get the kids to come to the schools or come to the Jordan House because, I mean, we say walking in the footsteps of history. John Brown, the abolitionist, walked on the floorboards of the Jordan House. But yes, we're all about education. That's the number one thing in our mission. So I will come to schools. Basically, you got to beat me off with a stick to keep me away. I want to come and share these stories with you. And the stories are just going to get more complex and more interesting as we plan in the future to build a new Heritage and History Center. So it will get the Underground Railroad exhibit up out of the basement. We'll be able to expand it, do more about the freedom seekers, actually offer the opportunity for Indigenous people to tell their story. But until that happens, watch our Facebook, our social media, and our website. We have a 3D virtual scan of all 3 floors of the Jordan House that we're going to be putting up so you can take a virtual tour of the house anytime. Best of all, you don't have to download an app for this or any of that other stuff. Totally free. So right now the scan is done and we are just putting those information points. So if you want to learn more about the Chickering Piano Company, you will click on a point and you will have a world of information at your fingertips about the Jordan House, then eventually the Bennett School, and then eventually and the log cabin, and who knows what else, because we own a camera now, so we're going to just go crazy with West Des Moines history. So we are continuing to do everything we can to guarantee that you will have access to this information regardless. If you can't get down to the basement, we're going to bring the basement to you. So please consider coming to a tour on, again, Friday or Sunday. Tickets are for sale online, and we've kept our ticket prices at $5. thanks to donors and supporters. So thank you all if you are a member, because you're helping us to continue to preserve history and educate. All right, go forth in football.